Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This event is part of the Freelance Futures, a summer programme of learning and action for equitable conditions in culture. It's being delivered in partnership with the Freelance Futures Consortia. I am Layla Darrenville. I'm a mixed heritage Asian and white woman with wavy dark hair and a big smile. I'm wearing a black t-shirt and I'm sitting in front of a green wall with a few posters and pictures behind me. If I could ask all delegates to sign their name and information in the comments, just so we know who's here and who you are. And if I could ask you to please be on mute unless you're contributing verbally. Thank you. So before we start, we need to outline some of the access and other important information for people in the session. This session is being recorded and will be permanently available to view via the dedicated YouTube channel or via the website or community platform. Today we have My Clear Text providing live captioning. To access, please click the closed caption button. It's possible to access this as a full transcript or as on-screen captions. And our access support today is provided by Judith Maliri. I'm going to take a brief pause whilst those who need to activate captioning can do that. Interpreters of Colour Network are providing our BSL interpretation today. We'll ensure that their image is pinned so they can be seen at all times. And our BSL interpreter today is Rachel Jones. Freelance Futures is a call for collective learning and action to build equitable conditions for freelancers working in culture. It will take all our efforts to effect real change, so we welcome all your insights and experiences as independent practitioners and practitioners working within cultural organisations, unions, funding bodies and policy making. Given that we need all of us, it's our basic code of conduct for today. Please respect and value your collaborators in this room. Be aware of your privilege and know when to make space and when to take space. Avoid overcomplicated language and explain technical terms. We are all at different stages of learning. Respect the person, challenge the idea. This is a relaxed environment. Feel free to access this event in any way that makes participating work for you. If possible, please start with your video options switched on to welcome our speakers and contributors. Participating in the meeting. If you have a question or point to raise today, use the raise hand function in the reaction tool, which should be at the bottom of your screen, or type the word question in the chat function and we'll come to you. On the chat function, we'll be using the chat function to help us enable some of the discussion today and ask that it is used for that rather than for side conversations. We hope that this will assist in improving access and inclusion in discussions for everyone at this event. So I wanted to say thank you for all coming to our session today. I hope you've been enjoying the Freelance Futures events. And if, like me, you've been a bit disturbingly busy at this time of year, I hope you're able to engage with the recordings and have managed to get on the Mighty Network, which seems really brilliant. We're here today to talk about networking, connecting, organising, whatever you want to call it, from a freelancer perspective and also from organisations, how they're supporting people to raise their voices. We've got some great speakers today talking from different perspectives, and we're hoping to explore some opportunities and challenges around establishing and nurturing networks. I'm going to pass over to our panel members soon, and we'll aim to pull in your questions as effectively as possible at the end of everyone speaking. I've taken a bit of feedback and we're going to have a bit more time for those questions and discussion at the end. So a bit of an introduction to me, why I was asked to pull this session together. I am Layla Darrenville, and just over 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, I began a network then called Tyne and Weir Cultural Freelancers, now called Northeast Cultural Freelancers. After years of working for one of the biggest NPOs in the Northeast, I'd gone freelance over 7 years ago and found the process really lonely. I'd muddled through and found my team and worked out the process. My mum was a freelance jobbing actor virtually my whole life, so there was lots of those areas that I kind of already had an idea about. But I felt it was really hard and I felt really disconnected from so many people, especially after coming back from a short burst of maternity leave in 2018. At that point, I realised that loads of other people felt the same. So I started Northeast Cultural Freelancers. It was just a simple Facebook group. Quickly went from 50 people that I'd invited to a few hundred, and then up to almost 1,000 members within a couple of months. We're currently on 2,000, just over 2,800 members from across the Northeast. I have a group of people who work alongside me to ensure that there are opportunities for freelancers to raise their voices in the Northeast. We've worked with organisations, strategic bodies and funders to try and work for change in the region. The network is a grassroots network with a regional focus and connected international conversations, especially through the What Next network. The group itself is hosted on Facebook, which has its own challenges, but does seem to work for people. And the rules are really simple. Be respectful of each other. We don't need to agree on everything all of the time, but we do need to respect each other, and only share things that you feel will be relevant to the network. And generally people police this quite well. Anyone can use the network for their own conversation as long as it's relevant to people in the group, as long as it's relevant to other freelancers and independents. And the group is open to anyone who self-identifies as being a cultural freelancer, and also organisations who better want to support freelancers. The thinking behind that is that to be more equitable, organisations need to be involved in the conversation. Through Northeast Cultural Freelancers, we've done lots of things, including meetups, virtually and in person. We've supported people with fundraising, peer-to-peer support and mentoring. People have connected through networks and collaborations and found work. We've launched a Hold the Door Open series, which is about getting people who wouldn't normally be able to raise their voice to have platform. We've also managed to lobby several organisations to pay increased freelance rates. We've ensured that the majority of the strategic cultural bodies have policies of paying freelancers to attend meetings. We offer mentoring to freelancers who want to sit in those groups and on those bodies who might feel unsure about it. We're in the process of working with NPOs to offer free dedicated hot desking space for freelancers. And we're working with Northumbria University to offer surgery sessions across sector support and mental health and wellbeing. I often talk about the success of the network being accidental, but I realise that's not really helpful for people who might want to try and do their own thing. And it doesn't really outline the challenges or highlight the joy that sits with coming from connecting so many amazing people and talented people. So I'm going to outline some of my challenges and some of my opportunities and joy, and then I would like to pass on to the other panel members to talk about some of their experiences of networking and some of the challenges and opportunities that they've come across. So let's start with the challenges, because it's always good to end on opportunities. Time, it takes such a huge amount of time to manage a group of people that is so big, and even light touch management can be quite time consuming. I do the majority of the day-to-day management, and I'm often the first point of contact for people, and quite often also the person that people reach out to quite often in time of crisis. It's really difficult to fund the work that we do. We have a pay what you feel membership for individuals and organisations, of which we have a great response. However, you don't have to be a member to be part of the network, and it's really difficult to get funding from other funding bodies. Arts Council really value the work that we do and support it in lots of ways, but so far it's been difficult to work out how we can get funding to fund the work. Burnout. North East Cultural Freelancers is a freelancer-led network. It's not funded centrally. This means that we're often juggling a million things at one time, and burnout, this can lead to feelings of burnout. Organisations. Not all organisations, obviously, but sometimes the perception from organisations that freelancers don't know what we need, or that they know what we need and they don't really need to speak to us, can be a little bit hard to navigate, though I do feel like that's getting better. And individuals feeling disempowered, people not feeling that they have a voice, that their voice is too small, or that they might have something come back on them if they raise their voice about things that they feel uncomfortable about. The opportunities are big. So during the pandemic, it was so helpful having a couple of thousand people across the information that was being given. It was meant that we were able to share the mental load of working out what was right, what was confusing, and what information just didn't exist. There are many sayings that talk about, about networking, about bringing people together. Many hands make light work, two heads are better than one, strength in numbers. They exist because it's true, we are better together. When there's a regional network, people entering into the freelance workforce have a place to connect and feel supported and held by such amazing creative energy. And the generosity of our creative community is epic. I have to stop myself reflecting on this a little bit too much because it makes me cry, but it is epic. And the freelance workforce is so powerful. Connecting and raising our voice makes us even more powerful and helps us lean into that power a little more, demanding accountability as well. The sector has always been weighted towards organisations, and with the infrastructure and funding backing that up. However, now there's a better understanding of how the sector really works, it is definitely time for freelancers to begin to activate that power and work together. So that's a little bit about me. And a little bit about the work that I've been doing with North East Cultural Freelancers and really being able to connect into the What Next network. I would like to pass on to Carol, Carol Edridge, who runs Dance Grist and is also heads up one of the What Next chapters. And she's going to be talking a little bit about the work that she's been doing. So Carol, I'll pass on to you.
Thanks, Leila, and hello, I'm Carol Edridge. I am one of those classic portfolio creatives. My own practice is around image making and movement and examines perceptions of risk and change. That's not really why I'm here. I'm here because of my experience in networking and the reasons I've done it. So Dance Grist started off as a way to help dancers earn more money, because those of you who are dancers will know the average dancer before the pandemic earned less than £5,000 a year. But during lockdown, it kind of grew. So now it's anyone who self-identifies they're creative or believes they have creative aspects in their work. And I say that second one because we've even got an osteopath working with us. And he really does, his work is incredibly creative. So what we do is we help mobilize groups of dancers in small, non-hierarchic teams to either develop ideas for businesses they already have or create new business ideas if they have none. And the reason I do this is because we need to earn our own money. I really believe this. Even with everything else going on, we need to find other ways to finance what we're doing. So what does this actually mean? Well, groups of up to 9 creators will get together. I'll mentor them in Scrum, which is a specific non-hierarchic methodology. I use this because it gives everyone an equal voice, and there is no manager. And basically, once it's up and running, leave it to you and facilitate it where we can. We've got some fantastic disruptive things coming up, but I'm going to go backwards before I talk about that, because I'm also chapter chair of What Next East London. And I became chapter chair of What Next East London because we've got a wealth of incredible abilities in East London and no central networking or campaigning organisation for it. And because I'm a networker and I really hope this is going to work, I'd love you to join one of these networks, she says. So the first one is Dance Grist. The second one is my LinkedIn profile. And when take 3, when you join the mailing list for Dance Grist, will tell you about what next and the other things that we're doing so that you can choose what to do or not do. Don't worry about getting flooded. You'll be extremely lucky to get more than 3 emails a year. So back to networking. I haven't realized what I've been doing is networking as a freelancer. I've believed forever in the power of people working together. And it turns out that the first time I networked online was 15 years ago in the first photo sharing community on the internet. I've worked with people in different continents. One of them lives in the Philippines now, but I met him when he was in New York. I don't actually know what he looks like, but it doesn't really matter because we share the same minds. And this is the power that we have if we can use it. I'm networked within What Next and with Dance Grist because I need people to understand what we're doing, and I need non-arts people to understand just how difficult it is to make a living if you're any kind of artist or cultural worker. And I've introduced, there's about 200 very, very casual members of Dance Grist. I've introduced members of Dance Grist wherever is appropriate. We share networking opportunities. Some of us went to a funding lecture earlier today because we might meet people who can fund us in the future. You never know. And that's how I believe funding works. That's how I believe networking works. It's not really about going out to get a particular thing. It's to find like-minded people or people who like whatever it is we're saying, and who, because of that, carry on talking to us until there's something worth doing. As a disabled person, my physical networking has been enthusiastic but sporadic. And the way that I've come to understand how to deal with it is go to an event, find one person I really get on with, and then get home. And I don't think I've lost. I think I lose less energy by not feeling I have to talk to everybody. And of course, because I've only met one person, we can stay in touch and develop a reasonable relationship, and that leads to all kinds of things. So what else is there to say? Actually, very little, except that within Dance Grist, because we are creating projects that aren't to do with the arts, nobody's allowed to work for more than 5 hours a week on anything. So that means all of the networking and all of the work is shared. And it means people come and go, because of course, if you're a creative person and you get a contract, you concentrate on that. You don't want to be doing things that sap your energy. So our networking approach is, while very consistent, it has to take into account a huge churn of people. And I think this kind of model really works with freelancers, because when you've got work, you want to work. When you haven't got work, you need to get on and see what you can do. That's it from me.
Thank you, Carol. It was just brilliant to hear about the work that you're doing, and I'm a big fan of Scrum as well as a model. So I'm going to interrogate that a little bit later on if nobody else wants to ask questions about it. I would love to pass on to Salha now to talk about her work. So Salha.
Thank you. Thanks, Layla. Hi, everyone. I'm Salha Kaitesi. I'm the founder and artistic director of Tikisi, a community interest organization based here in the Northeast. Tikisi as a CIC is about nearly 2 years old. In October, it will be 2 years old. But I just want to tell you how we got to where we are now. About 11 years ago, I looked at myself and thought, you know, as an African woman, my voice was not being heard. I was told I had to behave a certain way, say certain things. There were spaces I was not able to access because of patriarchy. And unfortunately, growing up, you still have those things, those unseen kind of forces around you. Because if you did something, you always think, oh, what will my brothers think about? What will my father think about this and that? So I thought I needed to share my experiences. I wanted to talk about how I felt, what was good for me, what wasn't good for me, and how I perceived the world. So I created a blog, a personal blog, where I wanted to just talk about anything and everything. And it's not like the blog was meant to cause problems out there kind of thing. I wasn't aiming to bash at patriarchy and all that came with it. But it was really just a space where I could be myself, because I felt like if it was a diary, if it was a book, you know, something, anyone could come across it and probably throw it away, and I'll never have access to that information again. So the web was there, and I thought, what would I write that is actually going to live on until still be out there, so my voice could get heard? And yeah, that's how I started creating. I created a personal blog, sharing my experiences as an African woman on anything. It could be, you know, school. It was absolutely about anything. And then slowly by slowly, I started seeing other African women around the world, because I was sharing it on social media. I started seeing a lot of African women commenting and be like, oh my God, that is just me. And I'm like, where are you writing from? They're like, I'm in Canada, I'm in South Africa, I'm in Germany, I'm in this. So it dawned on me that actually the experiences I was going through myself were not just me as a person. It was actually like a collective. It was African women. It didn't matter where they were in the world. They felt the same way. So the next thing was like, why not now capture the voices of African women so everybody else now can contribute to it? So the personal blog now became an African woman's blog, where any African woman, whatever background you come from, you could share your stories, experiences. It was more like a sisterhood. So it came from about 50 people reading my blogs, because trust me, if you are in my network and you are my friend, I made sure I shared that with you. I would be like, did you actually read my latest blog? Because I just wanted to know how people thought about what we were putting out there. Was it a conversation that they felt? You know, it was more about, I wanted to know that the feeling I had wasn't just for me. And then, you know, from 50 readers a month to 100 readers a month to 2 million readers a year, we started getting. And I was thinking, hold on, what is going on here? So I knew there was something. I knew there was a lot of us who felt were not being heard. So in the last maybe 2-3 years, I started not just looking outward. I thought I would start looking around me, my community here in the Northeast. What is going on? Yes, those experiences, we are sharing them online, but what is really happening within here? So I started creating events that brought other African women, you know, together. And when I talk about events, I don't mean something that's never been done before. So for example, we hold coffee meetups. You've seen the coffee meetups everywhere. On the high street, there's like, drop in at this church at 10 to 11, there's free coffee, and every shop seems to have that. But every time I went to those places, I never saw anyone who looked like me. And outside, it never said Black people are not meant to come in. But so what was causing this? And through talking to a lot of the women in my network, I realized that a lot of them didn't feel like they belonged to those spaces, that they didn't feel welcome. So I thought, okay, I'll see what I can do. Well, I just thought I'll see. I think I was more curious to see what would happen. So when I organized the first coffee meetup, there were more Black women than white people, other races that appeared. I was like, it's just coffee, tea and biscuits, you know? Why didn't you go to the other one that was right next door to where you live? And you didn't, but then all that just opened up more. I think it opened my eyes a lot more to the things that were were happening around it, the things that a lot of us probably take for granted, like a coffee meetup for you is just a coffee meetup, yeah, walking, but actually no, there are a lot of people in our community who feel they cannot access those spaces because they do not see people like them. Representation matters a great deal. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do as many things as possible that will get people coming, people who look like me, people who are from minority ethnic communities, who are rarely heard, whose voices don't matter, and whose voices should matter, but they don't at the moment. And in lots of time, not just at the moment, it's been happening for such a long time. So as I was trying to organize lots of events, like Black History Month event here, do this. And again, it was the minorities who are now the majority in these spaces, because for one, they were seeing somebody who looked like them organize this, but two, I was actually talking to them and seeing and finding out what they wanted to see happen. It's not like I was just putting a service up or without actually consulting them to understand where they're coming from. But then as you talk about freelancers, I realized that actually I am doing a lot of this stuff for free. It's my own time. No one's paying me. Basically, passion was driving me, but my pockets were getting empty and empty every time. So after talking to my partner and a few of my friends, we realized that, we were onto something, as in we were empowering communities. We were reaching the people who were never reached, and we need to do something about it. And that's how we came up. We said, we need to make this a legitimate, recognized organization. So about 2 years ago, we registered Tikisi as a community interest organization that offers services from digital literacy, event management, collaborations, networking, coffee meetups. We still have our coffee meetups because they're very, very important. And we also still have our blog, which for us is very, very important. It's the reason why Tikisi started. It's the reason why I was able to see all those other things that were lacking within my community. So the blog still exists, and African women from all backgrounds still contribute to it. And yeah, I think, have I said everything? Yeah, I think that is pretty much me in a nutshell, but I welcome any questions later. I'll just share all our details in the chat. Thank you.
Salha, thank you. I knew you would bring such rich information to this conversation. I am going to ask Daniel to join us now and talk a bit about what ARC in Stockton have been doing.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm a 31-year-old male identifying Caucasian person. I have short, light, thinning brown hair and a pair of square black glasses on. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and I'm sat against a kind of a light grey wall. It's really lovely to be here and to see so many of you. I'm Daniel and I'm the producer at ARC in Stockton. I'm responsible for the live performance, artist development and cinema programs here at ARC, which is maybe why I look so tired. Yeah, that's kind of the why I look after. First of all, let me just say thank you very much for inviting ARC to be here today. This is a really important conversation, and to have the chance to take part in it all with you is a real privilege. A really big part of me doesn't really want to talk. I kind of just want to sit here and listen. I really loved hearing the things that we've just been speaking about from Leila and Salah and Carol. But I have been asked to speak about some of the things we've been doing, and so I will. I can see Leila reacting with relief there. So this next thing is a really obvious thing to say, but I am going to say it anyway. Freelance workers obviously play an absolutely vital role in the cultural sector, and they are critical really specifically in enabling, shaping and delivering the work that happens at our venue at ARC. ARC employs artists, practitioners and other creative staff on a freelance basis to deliver creative learning activity, to develop artistic work with us, to work on productions in collaborations with some of our associate artists and companies. It's not a radical thing to say that this venue is dependent on freelance staff to maintain ARC's artistic offer. And we would not be able to operate in the way that we do without freelance workers. We would not engage the amount and diversity of people and communities we do. We would not be able to make art as accessible as we do. We would not have performances to stage. We would not have classes to facilitate. We would not have technical staff to turn the lights on. When I was asked to come here and speak about networking today, the word transparency came to me almost immediately. Transparency, and I'm going to let that word like linger there, and I'm going to come back to it. Is this okay for everyone? Is this yeah? Public speaking is yeah, cool. Okay. Transparency. In the wake of COVID-19, we were listening to a lot of freelancers telling us about the really clear, unfair challenges that were being faced by freelance workers. And basically, we wanted to make things a little bit easier. We wanted to try and formalize our thinking a bit. And so we did. All of the departments at ARC got together, and we looked at all of the ways in which we work currently with freelancers. And then we talked about all the ways we wanted to work with freelancers. We wrote everything down and we started to turn it into a policy. And then we showed what we'd written down to freelancers that we work with, and we asked them what they thought. We paid them. They inputted, and then we tweaked the policy. And then we just published it. It wasn't complicated and it wasn't particularly hard work. You can read the full policy on the website, and I'll post a link somewhere at some point when I stop talking. But basically, we're committed to treating freelancers fairly and respectfully. We recognize the role that freelancers play, and we recognize how much we have to gain from these relationships. We believe it's important to acknowledge the challenges that freelancers face, which are not shared by salaried staff. And we believe it's important to find ways of providing employment on a more equitable, symbiotic basis. And frankly, to work better, to make it a bit easier. It's an ARC policy which I genuinely feel has been authored by both ARC staff and freelance workers. Some of you might have seen it, but some of the highlights of this policy include, we'll pay you within 14 days of receiving your invoice. If you're new to ARC, if you've never been here before, you will get a welcome. We'll give you a guided tour of the building. Any freelancers working with us at ARC will have a written brief. We'll have a named point of contact. We will have a line manager of sorts. Wherever possible, we open up training sessions which are available to salaried staff to the freelancers who work with us. ARC's resources of office space, printing, equipment and a green room will be available to you whilst you're working here in the building. You will be provided with a letter of agreement. Freelancers working with ARC are offered opportunities to observe our board meetings to kind of come along and take part in those sessions. The word transparency, again, runs through this policy. It was surprising to us how many times that we spoke to people who hadn't heard venue staff, venue management talk about their organization before, in terms of the venue's strategy or their budgets or their audiences or their ambitions. Earlier this year, we hosted the Northeast Exchange, which was a networking event which came from an old network pre-COVID, which was called the NEADN. And this network is freely accessible by anybody who's working in the creative industries who is based in the Northeast. Venue people, freelancers, actors, directors, magicians, technicians, anybody that would like to come along. This was about listening. This was about conversation, and this was the first meeting of the network, and it was really about where are we now and what's happening and what's different to how it was before and what can we do. We paid freelancers to help us to shape the event, to design the questions that we posed, and to host the event. There was a common feeling from speaking to people that were there and around that, I guess, about there was a not knowing what people could ask for from the building, not knowing what does ARC do. So we just wrote it down, and we just wrote down and published it, a list of things that people could ask us for. We're trying to remove this barrier of like a mystique or kind of any kind of nervousness or an anxiety that there might be when kind of approaching a venue or wanting to talk about something or wanting some support from something. So this list of things includes like I want to be introduced to other creatives. I want some general advice on this thing. Can I have some money? Can I have some space? These are all things that you can ask us. And even by writing it down, this culture of transparency and honesty, it feels like it's already made a huge difference. People aren't nervous about asking us for these things because we've already said that you can. It feels like this culture of transparency and honesty can and would make a difference, right? Like, it feels like that's the thing that feels like getting that right feels like it can make a big difference, we think. And a very final point, a really important point, really important point, the things don't always go right. Things go wrong frequently some days, and we hope that our systems pick up on this, but sometimes they don't. What we want through this kind of culture, this transparency and this honesty, is to build relationships amongst freelance workers and venue staff and around everybody, frankly, everybody, so that we can talk about things openly, and so that when things go wrong, we can have a proper conversation about it, and we can kind of fix it or understand and make things better. Yeah, I think I've run out of things to say. Yep. Thanks.
You said a huge amount, Daniel. That was brilliant. And I don't think you need to be worried about public speaking. I think you've passed on a huge amount of amazing information. So we've got actually our first question has come directly for you, Daniel, if that's all right, and then we can all sort of come back into the conversation. But what does governance look like at ARC? It sounds like you must have a pretty amazing board of trustees for this work culture to exist.
Yeah, I mean, so our board is I was at a board meeting last week, which is, it's interesting you've asked me this question, because we're trying in this new way of reporting to the board, in which like heads of departments go to the board meetings and talk to the board about what we've been doing. This idea about giving this bit more flavor. So it's not about writing it down, it's about us going along and talking about things, which has been, it's been really good. But yeah, I think I would love to tell you statistically what it is, but I think about half of our board are made up of artists, so sort of essentially freelance artists who kind of work. So it was half. We've had a few departures, but certainly a large proportion of the board is made up of freelance artists. In terms of the diversity of the board, I'm not going to make it up. If anybody wants to know, we'll actually just tell you. But we have a diverse board in terms of representation from different ethnic backgrounds, which is clearly really important. And I've just seen somebody say this is why. We think that as well. We know the role the board plays, and so, as we say, we are recruiting new board members. That's really important. It's really critical, right? It's kind of to have that kind of spirit and culture kind of running through the middle of the building, through all of the core staff and through all the board members, that kind of expands outwards, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's why too.
We've got another question from people in the room around, have you been able to evaluate the difference the policy has made for the organisation?
Good questions. Not properly, not yet, no. So we published it towards was it October of last year, I think. So we're coming up to about a year basically since we published it. I can certainly talk anecdotally about difference that it's made, and I can talk about experiences we've had with artists and speaking at things like this. We haven't got any statistics kind of things I'd like to share with you. It's a very good question, and I will talk to somebody about that if anybody wants to know.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat with regards to other questions coming in. But I would like to talk to Salha about some of the work that you did, like those initial things. Did you ever go into writing that blog thinking that you would be where you are now?
Absolutely not. I think if I had that mindset, I probably would have done a lot of things differently. I would have applied for that funding right at the start. No, I never ever imagined it to be as big or as successful, especially, let's say, the blog. And like I said, I was happy with just having a place where I could share my thoughts, my feelings, just almost like an online diary kind of thing. And with sharing it on Facebook in the beginning, it was daunting because I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be judged. What's everyone's going to say? Not everybody's going to be happy about what I've just talked about, kind of thing. But then in the end, you kind of just forget about all that and think, I'm doing it for me. It's about me healing myself or finding my voice, and I'll do anything to find it. So no, I never ever imagined that at one point our platform would be accessed by 2 million people from around the world. Just wanting to be part of it. We've turned people down because I've got to edit the blogs. Well, now we have someone helping, but initially it's like you want all these things to come in, but at the same time, you've got to edit them and schedule them for publishing and correct the mistakes, and then get back to the writer and kind of tell them, okay, maybe work a little bit more on this. Do you see what I mean? So no, so I never ever saw it being the way it is now, but I'm happy it's going in the direction that it is going at the moment.
It's amazing, and I see all of the work that you do with artists from the Northeast as well. So, working with other artists and sort of creating that platform for them as well.
Yeah, that's a really big part. That's a really, really big part of what we do at Tikisi. It's pretty much about representation, because as you can imagine, you attend conferences every day, left, right, and center, and it's usually the exact same people speaking, the exact same people you see from one conference to another. But then we have a lot of people, let's say if it's like something to do with business, we have a lot of business people from the Asian community, the Black community, the Chinese community. So why are we not featuring them as the speakers for these conferences that we keep seeing? So yeah, in one of the things that we do with events that if we are collaborating with someone, we usually say, or even our own event, we usually say there has to be someone from a minority ethnic community on that panel. There has to be someone from this type of group on that panel, because we're not just going to accept what has been the norm for a very long time. And that is quite empowering for our communities. It's empowering for our children to see, lecturers who look like them, doctors who look like them on the platform, or even seeing their own parents up there, because we always, I think every city kind of has a Chinatown, and I'm thinking, like, if I think about a Chinatown here in Newcastle, those businesses have been there for as long as I can remember. But how come when we have a business conference, I don't see any of them being invited to be the ones speaking? If they've managed to hold these businesses in place for years, they must be doing something good. So it's about time that we actually showed the other faces in our community who are doing amazing work. And yeah, Tikisi is really striving to do that as much as we can.
Can I ask you a quick question? Do many organizations reach out to you, Salha, or is it often you that is pushing back and demanding that from other people?
From before, it was more like me actually getting into these spaces. Believe me, some of these spaces I am afraid to go into myself. So it's not like for me it's easy and everyone else is finding it difficult. But then I've just learned that I've got to go, I've got to ask. Yes, there will be so many no's, but there will be that one person who believes in what we are trying to achieve here. But as of late, it's actually been the other way around. It's a lot of people coming to us now. I guess the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the George Floyd incident has made a lot of organizations and people kind of question how they've been behaving in the past. So we're finding a lot of organizations are coming, and I absolutely appreciate when that happens. I would rather see somebody come and say, hold my hand up high and say, we've not been doing things right. Could you help us do this and this? We have we have a space that is only accessed by white people and their families. We want our spaces to be as inclusive. Could you help us achieve that? And yeah, we're happy to work with organizations that do that. So yeah, of recent, it's been the other way around, definitely.
Thank you, Salha. There's a couple of questions, and I think they probably sort of fit together a little bit. So what do people on the panel think sustainable resourcing looks like for your work, and what would you like? If you had a magic wand, what would you wish for? So I'm going to put that out, and Carol, I'm going to ask you to answer that one first.
We aren't going to conventional arts funders because we're not buying into that hierarchy. And it doesn't matter, to me at least, that they have the best will in the world. The very nature of their structures means that if we take their money, we can't be as creative as we could be. So, which is why it's taken so long to get Dance Grist off the ground. So how are we doing it? We're doing it with an old-fashioned conventional business plan. Every team with their own ideas have their own sustainable business plan. Every team has a certain startup amount, after which they will be self-funded and mostly will start earning between 10 and 20,000 a year for what it looks like is going to be 20 to 30 days. Because artists, when not told what to do, are just incredibly creative. It takes a long time to get the business plans together. So what we need is just for each of our individual artists' ideas to be funded. Then we can do it all ourselves. You'll never need to give us money again.
Amazing. Daniel and Salha, do you have anything? If you could wave your magic wand, what would it look like?
Funding as well, but also more time in the day. 24 hours is not enough. I'm just finding that, you start working on something and it's like, oh my God, I've got to go and make dinner now. It's, there's just not enough time. But funding, especially as a small CIC, we are struggling to get the funding. A lot of our services we try and make a lot of our services free, but there are some that cannot be free because obviously we need to be sustainable. And unfortunately, that means a lot of people in the community are not able to afford to attend, these classes or an event that, even if it's just £5, to somebody else, £5 is a big deal, especially now. So yeah, I would love to see a lot more funding. I would love to see a lot more opportunities given to people like me. I think sometimes I feel that we're not given that chance. There's giving someone a chance, and I'm like, give them a chance. If it doesn't work out, then don't support them again. That's understandable. But then a lot of the times there is absolutely no chance at all. It's like we keep seeing the exact same people being funded, the exact same people doing the same thing, and you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm doing that probably 10 times better, or we've empowered 10 times more people in that community, but then why is it no one is seeing or giving us that opportunity? So yeah, the magic wand would be more funding and time. 36 hours in a day would be good.
I hear you on that one. Daniel, from your perspective.
Yeah, I guess is it Lizzie that asked the question? It feels like I'm going to be ever so slightly rude about Lizzie's question, but it's basically, if I had a magic wand, it's phrases like sustainable resourcing is like, that's the thing that I would get rid of if I had a magic wand. It's this kind of arts council speak in inaccessible language, and sitting down to do a funding bid, and you kind of need like a dictionary to kind of figure out what actually the question is that they're asking. I guess it's kind of I come from a working class background, and maybe it's kind of inbuilt in me there, but there's just this thing about feeling like it's inaccessible, and funding takes longer than it has to because we don't understand what they're asking. And the questions that are like this, makes me second guess that if I know the answer to it, because it's asked in such a way. And so that kind of magic wand, I'd wave that and get rid of some of those kind of some of that language, basically, which clearly has a place, but it feels like it's making art activity inaccessible to some people, which it feels like you kind of fix the language and you might be able to start making the art a bit more accessible to some more people. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. We've got another question, and it's around, what do we think NPOs, so the national portfolio organisations who are centrally funded by Arts Council, what can those organisations do to better support these grassroots networks or groups of people who are organising themselves? And I think I'm going to come to you first, Daniel, being from one of these national portfolio organisations, which is already doing a lot, like, and so you know the challenges that come from running an NPO, but also the sort of the financial privilege that comes with that as well.
Yeah. This feels like the hardest I've worked in like a little while. There's something about I mean, I touched on it, I think, a little bit when I was talking, that I think it has to start with the culture of listening, right? And like it has to start with understanding. Feels like I want to ask. Can you ask me the question again? Because I feel like I've gone in the wrong direction.
So
right?
what can NPOs do, so national portfolio organisations, to do to support the grassroots networks, so groups of freelancers organising together and trying to create that level of change?
Yeah, cool. I think so. I do think it starts from a place of that kind of networking and listening and understanding the kind of the other networks that are in your region or kind of really locally to you, and understanding what their purposes are, and understanding and getting to know the people that run them, right? I think all we really are is a series of relationships with people. That's all kind of venues really are, is relationships with audiences or relationships with staff or artists or whoever. So I think coming from a place of listening and understanding, and then clearly, being an NPO kind of comes with these kind of privileges, basically, which there is a responsibility to kind of use in a what's the word for it, in a way which lifts everybody up, right? I guess in terms of finding a way to platform kind of other organizations and networks which need that sort of support. So I guess it's things that I was talking about a little bit earlier in terms of I've slightly run out of steam. I'm really sorry. Can somebody else talk and then I'll come back if I can do? Yeah, cool.
Carol, would you like to?
I have no direct experience of working with NPOs, but I am a very proud trustee of Unlimited, the largest funder of disabled arts in the world. And we're not an NPO yet, but hopefully we will become one. And part of our mission is to be radical in the accessibility that we provide. And we've also stated quite clearly our objective is to create an environment where we're no longer necessary. And after saying that, you know why I wanted to be a trustee.
I love that. I love radical access for a start, but yeah, I think so many people kind of set out to create something for themselves a lot of the time, and I don't mean that because that's not necessarily a negative thing, but it's that thing of trying to create opportunity so that you can take a step back from it all, which I think that's such a great place to be, and I love that radical access. From my perspective with regards to NPOs, I'm going to come back to that question. A lot of it is not expecting to access the conversations and the relationships for free. And that might sound like a really simple thing, but I get asked to be part of so many conversations. Like, oh, could I just grab a cuppa with you? Could I just have an hour with you? Could I just do this? Could I just do that? And actually, from those organizations, sometimes it's a really nice thing. It's talking to really nice people. It doesn't necessarily feel like work, but it's still an hour out of my paid time that I could be doing something else with. And I think it's just really understanding the value of what you're asking from other people. So you're asking me to be in that space with you for an hour. Why are you doing that? You obviously value my time in the sense of you want to get something out of that time. So try and value it with the level of money as well. And I would say that, you know, across the board, that's really important. So it's great when you hear of organisations like ARC really involving freelancers in that that sort of consultation aspects of the work. So it's not just the work, like understand the knowledge and importance of what freelancers have got to say beyond just the production of things. We're not just there to churn things out for you. We can really add to the conversation and also bring so much richness to that as well. So I'm going to come back to, there was another question and I think I've missed it. Oh yes, here we go. So the top 3 practical tips for self-organising. So many people are feeling even more isolated than before. So how do we create our own communities within communities? Would anyone like to jump in on that one? Carol?
Very cynically, because I've come across a lot of this free work stuff, prioritize. Now, everything I ask myself is it going to help the strategy? Is it going to help me get where I'm going to do? And, you know, just chatting to people can help you if you know what you're doing. And really, more than anything else, we cannot afford to throw our time away. Everybody's losing money now. We really have to prioritize. So pick one thing, do it well.
Fab. Daniel or Salha, do you have anything, Daniel?
I mean, I guess I would say there's something around like your own workload. There's just this thing around you dictating your own workload. Like you know what's better than anybody else. So I think that we all, I'm sure, get lots of emails and we get lots of demands for things for lots of different reasons. But in terms of almost following up from what Carol said about prioritizing, you know what's in your plate and what's in your things to do much better than anybody else. So in terms of not letting other people's timelines necessarily dictate your own, there's always reasons to do that, but you know, your time is your money, as you say, and you are responsible for that, and you know that better than anyone else. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with both Carol and Daniel. I've been called a workaholic a few times, and I think I know that, hence why now you know why when I say there's not enough hours in the day. So yeah, I think prioritizing one is really, really key, because you're juggling so many other things as well. So yeah, I'm learning. I'm not good at it, but I am learning, I've got to say.
I think I would agree with all of those things. I think I would add one as well. Don't think that organising needs to be big. Like, organising can be really small within your community, or I say small, it can be focused within your community. You can organise with a couple of people or with a smaller group of people. I think Northeast Cultural Freelancers, for me, like Salha, I never intended it to be as big as it was, and I appreciate what it has become, but actually it started off as something reasonably small in the sense of numbers. So organising can be a group of 5 people maybe getting together, whether it's online, on the phone, or even just via Messenger, and having those conversations and not necessarily feeling alone, and being able to share and understand that other people might feel like them as well. So my thing would probably be, don't be put off by thinking it needs to be huge, because it doesn't. And I know that with Northeast Cultural Freelancers, I intended on starting something like it years beforehand, and overthought it, and it took me over 2 years of overthinking to sit with a glass of wine one night and start a Facebook group. So yeah, you can start small. Carol?
I just, looking at some of the chat, I just wanted to qualify that prioritizing isn't necessarily about paying work. It's about prioritizing things that are going to help you get where you want to be. And I think, yes, to prioritise paying work means you're going to end up with no work later down the line, but prioritising things that will help you get where you want to be, whether that's a network or a bigger project or a smaller project, is a different game. So there are always going to be people you're not going to get paid to talk to. You need to be sure that they're going to be people that are going in the direction you want to be going with them.
Thank you, Carol. That's really useful. A question, is there a network for network organisers? Where do organisers go to commiserate, celebrate and share? The only one that I know of is the What Next group, but obviously that's for What Next chapter chairs. I don't know of any others. Does anybody else? It's a great question. We should start one. Can we find a workable model for getting remunerated for contributions to development, consultation, etc., like a charge sheet or something? Daniel, from an organisational point of view.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, yes, the answer is just yes, right? So in terms of like, if I understand the question, the idea is that how much, essentially a rate that a freelance worker would be paid to deliver a certain thing, right? So whether they're consulting on a certain thing or whether they're, is that the question basically about what, as a collective? So, yeah, like as in, it's one of those things where, from a venue's point of view, if there was a sort of standardized, like, this is how much this costs for this freelancer to do this thing, easy, right? There are obviously models and sort of existing things elsewhere that sort of dictate how much people should be paid for certain things, which exist, and ITC minimum rates and things, for example, which I know don't apply for everything. But yes, I would say that as a venue person, I probably shouldn't necessarily be like involved in the creation of that. And I think that's the thing. It's as the freelancers, like, it's really hard because I guess that comes into the situation when making that document and coming up with that model is something that you, in terms of who pays you to do those things, right? Like in terms of the time that it takes to make the model, where does the money come from to pay you to make that? But yeah, I guess it's an interesting thing. I guess, Leila, in terms of running like anybody who runs one of these kind of networks, I guess, like, do you have systems in place to do this, like as a collective? Are there already things in place that you can use as a guidance or not?
Yeah, I think it's really, from Northeast Cultural Freelancers, it can be a bit challenging because there's such a breadth of diversity of what people do, because we ask people to self-identify. But we do have a place that we hold central resources. So if somebody is happy to share something as a resource for the network, then we hold it in a centralized place. And if, we're always encouraging people to share things. I think it definitely is something that we could do more of, to create the kind of the structures for people to be able to do that. Personally, I also find it really difficult to talk about money, and I think that all of us need to get better at that. And one of the things that we try and do through Northeast Cultural Freelancers and working with other networks that have, so there's Northumberland Culture, which is a network of people in Northumberland, and various other networks. It's sort of trying to help support people through just trying to support people through that barrier of asking for things. It's really difficult to be able to go into spaces and say, oh, you've asked me for an hour of time. It feels like you're asking me in a very flippant way, but actually this is what it costs, because that it might block you off from accessing that conversation, which actually might benefit you elsewhere, but equally you're also benefiting them. It's a challenge. It is a challenge, and it's one that I know I face as well. Sorry, Daniel, you wanted to.
No, it's almost, but it's exactly that transparency thing that I was talking about. Whereas, if this was publicly available somewhere that said that essentially this is how much freelancers should be paid to sort of consult, this is how much this hour of time costs, this kind of transparency around money, like from a venue point of view, that kind of conversation about, we really love to do this, but we don't know how much that costs, and we don't know how to get into that conversation, and that kind of openness, like that we should get rid of that kind of awkwardness, because that maybe is a barrier to sort of these things happening more frequently, right? You can remove that, and then it makes it much easier to have those honest conversations. And yeah, we should, yeah.
Carol, and then Salha.
I looking at the chat again, I'm going to annoy a couple of people. I'm going to give you a very capitalist answer to this, which is avoiding the question. when I set up Dance Grist, which is just for dancers, as you know, I assume that people, what next, and the other people that you're talking to here will spend time and will eventually get better rights, but I want to accelerate it. So what we're doing, and the reason why we're helping people build their own collaborative businesses, is because if you're spending 5 hours a week on work that gets you just enough to be comfortable, you will automatically be turning down things that you don't that don't pay enough. So then it becomes less important about saying this is a minimum, because the more people who are running their own very small businesses collectively and getting this small sustainable income, the more no's people will get. They won't have any choice.
Yeah. Salah?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is difficult for a lot of people to talk about money, including myself. But you've got to understand, as somebody, especially a freelancer who's just starting out, what you want is exposure, key. You know, you're like, how are people going to know I am here? It's pretty much trying to get yourself out there. So there's a lot of times people will sacrifice that money just for the exposure, for the platform, in the hope that, you know, the next time somebody will have seen what they do and has appreciated what they're doing, and then they will get the fee that they are looking for. So I have come across a lot of people that we've worked with, you know, in our community, who just want, you just like, we have this event, do you want to come and exhibit, you know, have a stall at this event? And they're just like, yes. No one even asks about money. It's simply because no one else would have given them that opportunity to actually be there in the first place. So yeah, it gets a bit difficult when it comes to that money issue.
Salah, there's a question about, do you ever get scared when something becomes big? So with regards to Takisi, and it started off as something which felt for you, it was a healing blog, and then that kind of got to this sort of 2 million people.
Yes, it did. It was a bit scary. I think at first, not that much, as you say. It was just about me, and I felt like whatever comments, good or bad, that are coming, I'm the one who's going to absorb that. But as it grew and other people were included, it's almost like, oh my God, everyone is in my hands kind of thing. Yeah, it gets a bit scary, but also I think though, because the whole point of all this is not just being big for the sake of being big, it's being big and at the same time also empowering and reaching as many people as possible. So to us, being big means, you know, we've come from just supporting 100 people to 1,000 people. What have we done to impact the lives of those 1,000 people? So however much it might be scary, but I think the good that comes out of it will kind of outweigh the scary stuff. You get scared a little bit, but you're like, yay, 1,000 people have been supported, so it's a good thing. So yeah, if you're looking to work and do, no problem, just send work our way. We want to be big.
I think my answer to that question would be something similar. It's that feeling of doing good is a really nourishing feeling. And Northeast Cultural Freelancers got really big during the pandemic, and it was kind of my way of giving something back. So I've got small children, I couldn't go out and make meals for people who couldn't get out of their houses or whatever. So my way of doing something good was really supporting a network of people that I knew had been trampled all over, frankly. So, and really trying to enable people to just have more information, more opportunity to be connected. But yeah, sometimes it is scary, and sometimes you feel very responsible for people, and that can sort of blur boundaries a bit, which is something that I constantly have to reflect with myself, and that workaholic thing that you said before really kind of hit a chord, because I get a bit like that and I have to remember that I've got a family. Carol, there's loads of questions about Scrum as a project management tool, and how that can be used to support networks of people.
So it's a framework rather than a project management tool. And you set out a route plan, and you have one person whose role is to help everyone work together. That person's called the Scrum Manager, Scrum Master, sorry. And one person who is supposed to make sure that everybody's still heading in the same direction, and that person is called the product owner. We don't use those names because they don't really fit for arts oriented projects, but that's what they're called. It's a really, really hard thing to do properly, because to have a really flat organizational structure where everybody has equal sway is not something any of us are used to. So every single group that I mentor as they come into the organization, for the first 6 or 7 weeks, they're more likely to be doing nothing and to be asking me to what they do next. And of course, if I tell them what to do, they do next, that's completely destroyed the non-hierarchical structure. We are having one of our groups has developed a way of teaching Agile Scrum through dance, and we're going to do a big trial practice. So sign on to the Dance Swift thing and you'll be welcome. We'd like to get 1,000 people to do it. It will take about 3 hours, and we're going to make a viral original art form.
That's amazing.
It's amazingly, it's a really simple idea that is really, really hard to do properly. And dance, which is one of the areas I know well, I've seen lots of people who think they do it, but since the choreographer's still telling people what to do, they're not.
Amazing. That's, yeah, I want to be involved in that. I'm very aware of the time, and I'm also aware that Rachel has been working really hard throughout all of this, and we're going to try and finish at the very least on time, if not a little before. So I am going to ask the last sort of couple of questions. There's one which is about managing passion with personal. If you're organising something like this, how do you manage passion with personal self-care? Often those attracting grassroots networks are willing, however, may also be in need. Holding the reins of a growing network is incredibly draining. What do the panelists do to ensure they save space and time for themselves? I'm going to answer this one first very briefly, to say I'm really bad at it. And I think sometimes there's a perception that well, no, there isn't. So I struggle with this perception that I am getting loads from the network, that I've got like this giant mansion I'm sitting on a pile of money and that I'm taking all this space from other people and hoarding it, and I'm not. So I kind of have to push past that a bit, and I've put things in place to kind of help my own sort of overthinking on those things. But I am bad at it. I'm bad at boundary maintaining. I'm all right at boundary setting, but I always blur them. And I'm really bad for answering Facebook Messenger messages at midnight of people who reach out to me. I can see Salah laughing there because I bet she does the same. So yeah, really bad at that. So I'm going to pass it back to everyone else to give their experiences.
I think I laughed because I think I told you I'm no longer on social media for that reason. I pretty much just deleted Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything, because I needed here to kind of have a rest. And as you say, you find sometimes you're in the middle of cooking or doing something else, you're still working. I am learning. I'm really, really bad. I am absolutely bad at not putting things aside. I'm a perfectionist. So I will go through something over and over and over and over again until it's got to the point where I feel like, okay, yeah, there's nothing, there's nothing we've missed here. But I've got a partner who's really is the opposite of me. He prioritizes his work. He makes sure he takes breaks. And because he takes breaks now, I'm learning, or I'm kind of saying, when you take a break, I take a break. So now I know. So he's helping in that way. Sometimes it doesn't work. I will go to the shops or something, but I'll have my phone with me and checking every other email that I've missed. But yeah, it is hard, especially if you're starting out and you really want to get yourself out there and not miss a chance that might be out there.
Yeah, like everything that Salah's just said, that's basically what I was going to say. I think certainly, if maybe it comes with experience, the ability to kind of have those boundaries. I think when you're starting out, it's really challenging because you feel like you need to be connected and you want to take advantage of every opportunity and not miss anything. I certainly had that experience, and I came off social media exactly the same as Salah did about a year and a half ago or so, because I found myself reading an arts council report at like 2 a.m. when I was trying to get my child to go to sleep, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, that's not happening. So yeah, I kind of did exactly the same. But I guess there was an acknowledgement, and we've spoken about it a lot here at ARC and kind of with my colleagues, this responsibility and this we work in the arts, and it's important, right? We're telling these stories that kind of need to be heard, and we're kind of supporting people get jobs, and we're supporting people to sort of support families, and this kind of whole industry is doing so many different things, and it's so many important things that feeling the weight of all of that, right? In terms of like we're doing these jobs because they're things that we want to see done, and we love the arts, or we love working in the roles that we do. So that's why it's important. That's why we should care about it, right? We should care, and that's a really good thing. But like having those boundaries, like we can still care and not answer your phone after 7 o'clock at night. Like that doesn't mean you don't care. Like just have those things. But then, yeah, maybe that comes with a little bit with experience. But sometimes somebody telling you that, I think, helps as well. I think that helps.
I am going to draw the session to an end. And I want to say thank you so much to Daniel, Carol and Salha, and also to Judith, who is doing the live captioning, and Rachel. And Ricardo and Nyasha, who were back behind the scenes, making sure that everything was going smoothly. Thank you so much for all being in this space and being generous in your conversations. And enjoy the rest of the sessions. Feel free to get in touch with various people in the space. I'm sure Daniel would be happy to hear from people. I know I would, and Carol's already put that out there, and Takisi's been linked in the chat as well. So thank you all, and hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. Bye.